There you go. All right. Well, let's get started. Sorry to interrupt you with your Kirkland tasting. We can get back to that in the after hours.
Apologies accepted. Yeah,
Yeah. All right.
we'll get back to that.
Okay. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the third tasting of Rioja box. We're tasting this guy. This little blue bottle, or blue label. 2018 Bodegas Bhilar Phinca Vedao Garnacha is what we're tasting today. Just a few announcements real quick. In case you didn't see the email, in the reminder email, I need to wrap up the enrollment for next month, this weekend. So if you are planning on joining us, please pay your invoice. If not, just let me know so I can get that all set up. And in case you did not hear, next month's theme is going to be rosés. I mean, the season is upon us, so it's going to be a bunch of different rosés, different styles, to kind of showcase that not all rosés are made equal. So we'll get through some of that. Besides that, this will go out pretty soon, but the wine prom details are getting firmed up. It is going to take place at Development C, which is the same place that we did it last year. Will actually definitely be the last year that we'll have it hosted there, because they're not renewing their lease. So, given that this is the last chance to host it there, we might as well take advantage of it. So yeah, it will be happening there, which is in the Dabney, above the Dabney in the Black Alley, in case you're not familiar. But yeah, all of that details will go out next week. But just wanted to give you guys a little quick info on that. Besides that, I don't really have any other announcement today. We're donating to No One Left Behind this month. This organization that our own Allison Hester just started working at. If you want to learn more about what they do and donate alongside 6 Foot Wine Club, the link is right there in the chat box. Any questions about wine prom or next month's theme or anything before we get into the wine?
You figure out who's doing the food?
I think we're in conversation. I'm in conversation with a few people. Honey Pig is always as the backup, but it's good. But we did it last year, just to switch it up. But Tiger Fork, maybe catering it. And I don't know if this is gonna happen, but Your Only Friend, I don't know if you guys been there, that sandwich place down there, they're actually legit, like they're properly trained cooks and chefs in there. So they may do like one-off, not just sandwiches, but like one-off kind of like family meal kind of deal for us. Yeah, they have great cocktails as well.
Yes, so they have one that tastes exactly like an Orange Julius. For those of us,
it's pretty awesome.
Incredible. Like it's not creamy, but it's like exactly the flavor. It's unreal. You gotta have it.
Yeah, I love that place. So yeah, that maybe, but yeah. So in conversation with a few people, there's a Cam 46, which is a Vietnamese lady duo that runs their food truck out of Mess Hall. We're in conversation with them as well. So yeah, it's all getting worked out. But as of right now, Tiger Fork it seems like they're gonna be able to pull it off. So most likely it will be Tiger Fork.
What was the theme last month? I had a child who was being quite loud during that.
Next month, you mean?
Yeah, next month.
It's gonna be rosés.
Ah, okay, cool.
Yep, spring's upon us. It's that time of the year, so load up with some rosés. I want to drink some pink wine, so that's what's coming. Any other questions? Cool. In case you were just joining us now, we're tasting this guy right here. 2018 Bodegas Bhilar Phinca El Vedao Garnacha is what we're tasting today. Let's start with Here you go. Should look pretty familiar by this point. This is Spain. We've been in Spain all month. And where we are is Rioja, which is this dark orange region, just right up against Navarra, just on the other side of Mount Cantabria, which is what basically divides Basque Country to Rioja. But yeah, this is where we are. So pretty far up north in Spain. If you look a little more closely, this is what it looks like. Just some of this is a review, but we talked about how Rioja is actually divided into 3 different regions, right? Rioja Alta, Rioja Alavesa, and then Rioja Oriental, which formerly known as Rioja Bajo. But where we are this week is right here, Rioja Alavesa, which is all entirely in the Basque Country. So again, this is coming from the Basque Country region of Rioja. We talked about how Rioja basically belongs to 3 different regions, the Basque Country, Navarra, and Rioja. But this one, Rioja Alavesa, is pretty much all in Basque Country. We've mentioned that most of the Garnacha that you find are mostly right here in the Rioja Oriental. So, and then Rioja Alta and Rioja Alavesa is really a Tempranillo country. But you can also find old vine Garnachas and Graciano that are found here. And, you know, when we're talking about Rioja, what we're talking about is Tempranillo dominant blends, right? And then Garnacha, which is Grenache in French, what French call Grenache, Spanish call it Garnacha. They're the same grape. But the Garnacha and Graciano get used as kind of blending grape into Tempranillo to create what we know as Rioja. But in recent years, I'm talking about probably last 10 to 20 years or so, there's been kind of a push. There's been just kind of a stylistic change that's been going on here in Rioja. We kind of covered this in the first week. I mean, we talked about this last week as well, but the first week, you know, that being that kind of classic traditional style where the wine is, the emphasis is really more on in the cellar than it is in the vineyard, right? It's all about, there's less of this importance on what vineyard site it comes from, what is the difference between one vineyard, wines that are sourced from with this vineyard versus that vineyard. That's not exactly how Rioja was really thought about. It was more focused on how much oak barrels usage was there, as well as how long it was aged. So there's a lot about kind of the intervention, a lot about human touch, and then Rioja, not only the quality level, as well as just kind of different labels, all based on that, essentially. I mean, we talked about Joven versus Crianza versus Reserva and Gran Reserva, right? All that is all about oak aging and bottle aging, which is what we're talking about, what the cellar work. But within the last 10 to 20 years or so, there's been this huge change in Rioja where people are moving away from some of that. And then there are all these young winemakers. And at this juncture, like this one, last week's wine was a very young woman winemaker, Sandra Bravo, who's making some incredible site-specific, you know, Rioja with a sense of place up in Sierra de Polonio, up in this Rioja Alavesa. And this week, we're going to talk about this winery, which is still, in terms of in grand spectrum of Rioja, a pretty young winery, but they've been doing it for a while. They go back to late 90s and early 90s. But there's been this kind of push to think about these, what was once a blending grape variety, as kind of a varietal bottling. Because the climate here, as well as some of the soil types that are here, are really well suited for Grenache to do very well, and Graciano as well. But oftentimes, just because of tradition, it's just never been bottled as a varietal bottling. But now you can see some of these wines that are grown in really beautiful vineyards being bottled as a varietal bottling. And that's exactly what we have today. This is 100% Garnacha. So when we think of Grenache, we're oftentimes thinking about Southern Rhone, right? Côte de Rhone, that right? Grenache dominant blend. But know that there's beautiful Grenache or Garnacha being grown in Rioja, just because the weather, climate does really well for this grape. And that's what we have here. So who makes this wine? By the way, this is actual town the winery is in, just to give you an idea of what this area looks like. I mean, obviously this is taken in the fall, as you can see all the foliage that's coming in, but it's a beautiful area, right? So this is the Sierra de Polonio that we're talking about. This is where up in the mountains here is where last week's winery last week's wine were sourced from. But yeah, El Vilar is the name of the town, and then this is where this winery is located, by the way. But these are the people who make it. So Bodega Vilar is run and owned and run by husband and wife team. This on the left, on the right is David San Pedro. And then this lady on the left is Melanie Hickman. As the name may suggest, doesn't sound very Spanish, right? Or Basque. So David San Pedro is actually a Rioja native. He was born and raised in that this town that I was showing you. He's a native from there. So he's born and through Rioja and Spanish. Melanie Hickman, on the other hand, is actually an American. Learned that she's a former pharmaceutical sales rep, so from Ohio, had nothing to do with wine. But she apparently met David on a layover in Madrid, fell in love, and then ended up moving to Rioja. And then now she also makes wine under her own label called Phinca Japa. So there's that. Apparently she wrote a whole book about it. So if you ever want to hear about what it was like for an American woman from Ohio to move to Rioja and become a winemaker herself. And from this interview that I read, apparently Melanie's the one who actually pushes David for all this kind of organic and biodynamic farming and biodiversity and all of that. But she wrote a book called Struggling Vines, if you're ever interested in reading about her story of moving to Rioja and making wine there. Anyways, David started this journey in 1999 with just 3 hectares of vineyards. He's a trained agricultural engineer, enologist, as well as a farmer. But David started learning about biodynamic principles and started converting his vineyards to organic farming, then to biodynamic farming starting in 1999. And then in 2014, tractors were eliminated and horses were brought into the farm. In 2016, they built a sustainable solar power off-the-grid winery near the village. You see the village in the background, or the town, the cathedral in the background here in that picture. And then in 2021, they were certified biodynamic by Demeter. So we're talking about certified organic, certified biodynamic vineyard today. Today, he and his wife Melanie manage 17 hectares of vineyards with absolutely no machine use, using only horse as a source of horsepower, essentially. There's another picture of the actual vineyard site that this winery or this wine came from. So a lot of these kind of goblet old vine Garnacha. These are 6-year-old vines. And then here's another picture of people using horse to kind of plow the vineyard. So yeah, I mean, very much of the biodynamic principle or farming according to biodynamic principles, you know, using only the horses, making their own manure and cocktails and all of that. That's exactly what this winery does. So what is this wine? This is 100% dry farm, biodynamic estate Garnacha, grown on limestone, clay, limestone and clay. It's actually sourced from 3 different vineyards. On the label right here, you see that word parajes y únicos. Paraje means a vineyard in Spanish. So they're calling it unique vineyards. But it comes from 3 different south-facing terraced viticulture section called El Vedao, hence the name Phinca El Vedao. 450 meter in altitude, varietal Garnacha, be a rare thing in Rioja, like I mentioned. It's only in recent years that you're starting to see that. Completely destemmed, foot trodden. The 2019 vintage, this is 2018. I found out 2019 vintage is actually a whole cluster. I don't know why they went from destem to whole cluster and over a vintage. But if you ever want to see the difference between destem and whole cluster, I'll feature, I'm pretty sure, I know that 2019 is in stock. So I'll put it on Case Club. If you want to kind of see side by side of what destem versus a whole cluster tastes like, how they taste different, this may be a fun one to do, because the 2019 vintage is all completely 100% whole cluster, as opposed to this one is all 100% destemmed. Spontaneous fermentation in a 2,000 liter concrete vat. and then it's aged further 36 months, so 3 years in a French oak, 500-liter French oak, all neutral, nothing new here. There only the actual number you see here, 2904, on the bottle label. That's the actual number of bottles that are produced. So it's a very, very small amount of wines that are being made here. It's only 2,900 bottles made in 2018. My bottle is a 1637. I don't know what your bottle says, but that's what we got. What am I here? Yeah, and just just goes back to everything that I was saying earlier, that we started from that kind of week one traditional old school, very rigid style of winemaking, but from here the people are moving away from that and then making wine with a sense of place. There's a lot of, we're going to talk about this when we get to wine, and this particular reason I picked this wine with the amount of kind of a body, power, alcohol that's built in here. But there's also, you can tell this comes from a higher vineyard site, much more acidity, and then kind of a balance put in place. There's also some of the like limestone tension and then kind of like a tightness that runs through this wine as well. And all of that is something very new in Rioja. And a lot of these kind of young producers are moving away from that old tradition and moving into this style of wine in Rioja. So as compared to some other wine regions in the world that are a lot more forward thinking and progressive, you may not think that this is like super daring and crazy different. But in terms of Rioja goes, getting a wine like this is a completely different, like a paradigm shift. This is not what you used to see coming out of Rioja, and then it's just now within the last decade or two that you're starting to see all these changes, which is kind of exciting. So, in that, it's bottled completely unfiltered. Any questions about the wine before we get into tasting? Excellent. Let's taste the wine. Let's take the appearance.
Actually, Unga, I do have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
So I noticed that the front label says nothing about Rioja at all,
Mm-hmm.
but the back label does say Rioja.
Yeah.
So because this is Garnacha, is it still quote unquote a Rioja wine?
Yeah, I mean, it can be Rioja. It does say on the bottom, it says Rioja Alavesa, España, on the bottom of the front label. It's a very small print.
Oh yeah, very tiny.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it is indeed still Rioja, yes.
Okay.
And now I'm looking at it. I mean, this is just so you know, I mean, I guess where we're talking about. It's 14.5% alcohol. And we'll talk about that when we get to tasting it. All right, who wants to take the appearance?
I do.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you can.
Whoa, we have two people fighting for it?
I only volunteered because I don't know if I'll make it through the others with my kids right now.
Okay. Let's do the call.
Go for it.
All right. This wine looks clear.
Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, I will still call this clear. You can note that it's not filtered or fine, but yeah, it's clear.
Yeah.
For sure.
Intensity, I would say this is deep.
Yeah, agreed. I can't see shit through the middle. Yeah, this is deep for sure.
And then color, ruby.
Yeah, I'll still call this a ruby for sure.
And then no bubbles. We don't talk about legs.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll go even as far as, I mean, there's probably a good amount of extraction on this thing, but yeah, like I get a little bit of like even staining on the glass. It's quite a bit of a anthocyanin, which is just a geeky word for color compounds or color pigments that are extracted here. But yeah, that's it. Good job. You got to pick the next person for the notes.
Allison, did you want to go?
I didn't, but thanks.
Can you pick someone else?
I feel like
Okay.
I'm like really bad at the nose is the issue. It's like I think I'm slightly okay with the palate, but the nose I never can do it correctly. So I'm gonna try.
Yeah, it's even more reason to do it more and more, Allison.
I think I've been doing this for 4 years now. I think I just have a broken nose. Like I don't know that I can say I even have any improvement.
I don't believe that. Okay.
What I will tell you, Un, is that this wine is clean. This wine is sound.
Absolutely. This one is clean. This one is sound.
Um,
Intensity.
This one's the one I'm really bad at.
See where you start to smell.
I know, but I start to smell like way closer than most people. Medium plus.
Yeah, it's like right on that border to me. Like for me, it's like right there. So what is that? Like a couple inches? Yeah, I'd say like lower than medium plus, higher than medium. I'm gonna call this medium plus as well. Medium plus intense aromas. Ooh, what do you got?
Oh, I keep drinking it, not smelling it. I am getting red fruit for sure. I feel like red currant,
Yeah.
raspberry.
So nothing above the red fruit. Nothing floral, green, citrus.
I'm starting easy.
Yeah.
I mean, is there something floral? Maybe slightly, very slightly.
Yeah, ever so slightly. I think I'll get a little bit of like a rose petals or something, like dried petals or something like that. But yeah.
I don't think green fruit. I don't think citrus fruit.
No.
I don't think stone fruit or tropical fruit.
Agreed. Give me the other fruit, the berries, red and black fruit. What do you get?
Well, what did I say? Red currant, raspberry. I feel like those are the big ones for me.
Yeah. Do you get any black or just all red?
This is when I started doubting myself.
You don't need to doubt yourself. You get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't.
What about bramble?
Yeah, I get a little red. I get both. I do think that raspberry kind of like strawberry is a definitely in there, but like to me, I get like black cherry, plum, bramble. I get like both.
Yeah.
There's definitely something like plummy here for me. Quite ripe. Anyways, yeah, nature of the fruit.
I think it's pretty fresh.
Yeah, I'll say this is fresh. Ripeness, underripe, overripe, just
I would
ripe.
say it's ripe.
Yeah, it's quite ripe, right? Like I get a lot of ripe, and honestly, I even get a little bit of like jam.
I was gonna say jamminess.
Yeah, right. Like it's not just the fresh fruit. Like there's some cooked,
it's not. Yeah.
like a cooked plum kind of a thing going on here. Definitely, you can tell like this comes from like a hot place. You know, it's not like a bright, fresh, hard, maybe underripe kind of thing. This is ripe, like really like just maybe starting to overripen and somewhat like kind of like jammy, baked, stewed fruit that's here as well, for sure. Any herbaceous, herbal, any?
I'm not getting any, but if you tell me there is some, I'll believe you.
I don't get much herbaceous. I don't get green. I get a little bit of like, I do think this wine is starting to show some tertiary already, but like I do get some like black tea kind of a thing going on here. I definitely get some spices. I get some like peppery kind of a spice. And then just to finish out the primary, how about minerality, rockiness? You get any rockiness here?
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I'll get rock dust for sure. I'll get like dusty rock dust, all of that for sure. So like, yeah, for primary, we're talking about a touch of floral, both red fruit, black fruit. There's a ton of this like plumminess coming through for me. Bramble, black cherry, but definitely some raspberry, strawberry as well. fresh and ripe, as well as some of these like, to me, the black fruit seems really like baked and stewed like that. Like I said, like the cooked plum, like a plum sauce kind of a feel. The red fruit seems to be more fresh, but really ripe, like really, really ripe. Almost like borderline overripe. Nothing green, nothing herbal, but I do get some black pepper here and a bunch of rock dust is what I get on the primary. Now, let's get to the secondary and tertiary here. Do you get any secondary here?
No, I wish I'd read the little one pager thing so I knew if this was aged in oak or not. I feel like maybe just a little bit.
For sure. I mean, it's obviously not as obvious as like the first week's one where they had some new oak on it, where you get that ton of that vanilla and vanillin kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
To me, this is a lot more in that kind of like cloves, maybe a little nutmeg, like some of that kind of like baking warm spices going on here for sure. I get a touch of that. Not a whole lot, but like, yeah, just a touch. Any tertiary for you?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just starting to show. I mean, I mentioned like tea leaves. There's something dried out here, like maybe the fruit character is drying out a little bit, or maybe like I'm moving into some of these kind of like tobacco, vegetable kind of a territory here. But there's something ever so like, again, it reminds me of like dried black tea leaves kind of a thing going on here. But yeah, still very much in the primary world. Still, there's so much of primary left, but secondary shows through of that oak aging. I mean, it spent 3 years in neutral barrels. And then tertiary is starting to just peek through right now, is what I get on this one. Cool. See, that wasn't bad. You get the next person for a palette.
All right. Are there any volunteers? I'm not going to pick Julia because she's having a 14.5% kind of week. I feel like I'm not picking Julia because she's having a 14.5% kind of week, and I feel that deeply. I'm not going to pick David Corlette because I feel like I always pick him. So I'm going to pick Phil.
All right.
All right, I'm
Mr.
here.
Kahan.
Let's see, where are we?
Let's start with the top of palette.
This wine is dry. Yeah, very dry. It's a medium medium to medium plus acidity. I mean, very heavy acidity.
Yeah, it's got a good amount of acidity, right? Like lower in the medium plus, high in the medium.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm like just at the cutoff with a medium plus. I think I'll still land on medium, but it's like close to medium plus here. But this is what I'm talking about. Like we're talking about 14.5% wine coming from a really hot ass place like Rioja. Yet the fact that they can keep this amount of acidity is because they're going up higher in the elevation. That's what I'm talking about when I say very site-specific sense of place. Where this vineyard is located, they're all south-facing, meaning they get a ton of sunlight, they get a ton of ripeness. We've talked about how ripe the fruit character is here, right? Sugar development's there, 14.5%. But because it's higher up in the elevation, that they're able to keep this acidity. And that only happens because it comes from this particular site, this kind of a vineyard. So this is what I mean by that sense of terroir or sense of place. This wine is not just all about what happened in the cellar, but it's all about where it comes from. So yeah, the excellent pointing out the pronounced acidity here. Tannin.
Tannin. This has got some tannin, but it's not a hard tannin. It's a dusty type feeling in my lips.
It's good amount of tannin here, though.
Right? Yeah, that's a lot.
It's got some grip.
To the high end of medium.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna call this high end of medium, going to medium plus. Like more and more I move it around, more and more I feel the tannin. Yeah, so excellent. The high end of medium tannin, medium plus if you call it that. I think that's totally reasonable. Alcohol.
Well, it says it's 14.5, but it doesn't taste like that.
Right? So this is another thing that I want to talk about. So I've said this so many times, and part of the reason I wanted to put this in there was I wanted to show you guys wine with a high ABV hot. I mean, you can tell it's hot. Like I can feel the hotness here, but it doesn't feel out of place. It just feels in balance. You know, it doesn't stick out over the others. And I mentioned this, like I've tasted 15.5% wines that seem in balance. And I've tasted 11.5% wines that seem out of balance in terms of alcohol. It all really depends on the wine, where it comes from. As we talked about, it's got the plenty of concentration with the medium plus, it got the acids, the tannin, it's got the body, and like all this extraction. Because if it has all of that you can pull off 14.5%. If it was lacking the acid, it was lacking the freshness, and it was lacking that kind of a body and then power, and then it just had 14.5% alcohol, this would feel so hot. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. But agreed, it is hot. I can feel it, but again, very imbalanced. So medium plus 14.5%. We're getting into the medium plus, almost into the high territory. But yeah, high is 15 and above. So let's call this medium plus alcohol. Body.
Hey, this is a it's got a little body to it, so I'll give this a medium. It's not real heavy, but it is more than a medium minus.
Agree. This is also body-wise, I call this higher end of medium, lower end of medium plus, depending on where you want to go with that. But it's got some weight. It's not nothing. Moose, we don't have to talk about flavor intensity.
Oh, this has got a great flavor intensity. I think I would give this the low end of medium plus. I mean, I think it's great. I think there's a lot of flavor in it.
Absolutely. I'll call this medium plus as well. Nothing shy about this wine. Now, do you confirm everything that Allison called out? Is there anything else that speaks out at you on the palate?
No, I think that the red fruit call, some strawberry, the black fruit plum, black cherry. I think that was right on.
Yeah.
I don't taste any cooked fruit, and some kind of I don't know if it's the herb or it's the minerality that gives me a little dusty feeling.
Yeah, to me, there's a ton of that minerality. That's the one thing that I get on the palate more so than on the note. On the nose. So all the things that Allison called out, right? Like the touch of floral, touch of red fruit, that brambly black fruit, all of that. Ripe fruit here is very ripe. There's nothing underripe or unripe or green about this wine. Everything is really ripe, right? Even stewed or something. I actually, on the palate, honestly, it tastes fresher than it does on the nose. On the nose, I got a little more like stewed, kind of like Asian wine, but now I'm starting to think that maybe actually the tertiary is starting to peek through. Some of these like the fresh wine fruits turning into more of the fig and prune and some of the like the dried out fruit. But on the palate, it's still a ton of fresh fruit here. A lot of plum, a lot of black cherry, that raspberry called strawberry, I think is a good one. But there's this, again, I'm hoping that you guys are starting to see this because we've been tasting wine together for a long time. But wines that are grown on limestone has this tension that is unlike any other wines that are grown in different soil type. And to me, even though this one's big and full and has 14.5% alcohol, there's that tautness, there's that tension and tightness around it, and that's the limestone. That I get on the palate that I'm also on the nose. But yeah, some of that. Do you also, Phil, do you get any of the secondary and tertiary stuff that Allison talked about?
In the secondary, I didn't get any of that. I didn't get any oak in this either.
Yeah.
I haven't got it. I don't see anything that I would say that
Okay.
got that a tertiary or secondary flavor.
So to you, this is like very primary to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, still, I would say this is majority, given that this is 2018, so this is got 70 years of age on it. I would still say this so much of this wine is still primary, like majority, 80% plus. But I definitely see some of these secondary. I can definitely see some oak influence here. Again, not new oak, but you can tell this wine has seen some oak aging. I mean, it spent 3 years in the barrels. You see that, and then the tertiary, like for me, it comes off as this fruit character. It's maybe dried out a little bit. I start to get a little bit of like the prune, that like the plum that I was talking about, like a cooked plum. I mean, even says it a cooked red plum, but and then again, my mind keeps going to that kind of savory black leaf and all of that stuff that's coming out. And now that I've swallowed the last 2 sips of this wine, I really feel that 14 and a half. Again, not out of balance, but I can definitely feel it for sure. And finally, the length, Bill.
Oh, this has got a good length. I give this a medium to a medium plus, high end of medium to a medium plus. Good length on this.
Yeah, agreed. What's interesting to me is usually wines, it always hits me with a primary first, and then like all these tertiary, secondary, tertiary kick in later. But to me, yes, I mean, it starts off the primary, but then it quickly goes to the secondary, tertiary, like really spicy kind of a character of the wine. And then it comes back to that kind of like dry fruit, like a plum, cooked plum and all that stuff that's coming out of the third. But I 100% agree with you. I'm going to call this medium plus in length as well. Let's bring it home.
Yeah, so we start with the acid. It was a medium, high end of medium to a medium plus. We had tannin, which was a medium to a medium plus, and alcohol, which is certainly a medium plus, 14 and a half. So I think we are pretty balanced, and so I would give this a very good.
Yeah, I mean, I would say first and foremost, if anybody were to say, could argue that this alcohol seems out of place, I mean, that's a debatable. That's definitely an argument one could make. I don't think it's out of balance though. Like I don't taste this and all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit, like it's so hot that I cannot taste other things. Concentration, you called medium plus on the palate. Allison called medium plus on the nose. Complexity, I mean, we had a bunch of primary, right? Flower, we got red fruit, black fruit, fresh and ripe, but also like cooked. We had some
minerality too.
Yeah, minerality, we got pepper, I know we got secondary, we got tertiary. So tertiary start to show through. So we got medium plus complexity here. I'll call that at least medium plus. And then length, you call it medium plus as well. So we're solidly across the board in a medium plus territory here. So I agree that this wine is solidly the very good, not just generously giving very good, but like solidly very good. And then moving its way towards outstanding with the even more complexity probably popping in here. Now, would you age this?
Yeah, I think it drinks very well right now. And I think there's certainly time to age this. So I would think this could go another 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would go even further, honestly, to tell you the truth. And I 100%, right? Like we had good acid, right? You call medium plus on the acid, call medium plus on the tannin, or bordering on medium plus, high end of medium, lower than medium plus tannin. So we have excellent backbone. On top of that, we have concentration, medium plus. We have complexity that we are already calling medium plus, but it still has so much of the primary still left here, as you identified, Phil. And as time goes, all that is going to turn to tertiary, adding even more complexity. So I think this wine is definitely an excellent candidate for aging. Given that it has 7 years, and then it's still at this much primary, and it's just starting to show tertiary, and given how much acid and how much tannin this one has, I think it can go even longer. I say this is probably a good candidate for like another 5 years. 5 to 8 is what I would say. 5 to 7. But yeah, drinking beautifully. I think this one is delicious right now. But over next 3 to 5 is definitely going to develop even more tertiary. But I don't think it would have any problem drinking this for next 5 to 8. So that'd be my call. Excellent. Any questions? Any disagreements?
So this, even though it was in the barrels for 3 years, would not be a Reserva yet?
Correct, because it hasn't had bottle time, and also for it to be called a Reserva and Crianza and all of that, and it has to be a Tempranillo based. There's got to be some Tempranillo there. Yeah.
So even if it were a blend with Tempranillo, it could be a Reserva.
There's a percentage, I forget the exact percentage, but I think it has to be at least 85% Tempranillo. 75%, 85% is something right around there that I forget which one it was. But legally speaking, it has to be 75 to 85% Tempranillo for it to have all that. Rioja, I'm telling you, it's a very, very rigid place in terms of its rules and laws and all of that. So, any other questions? Yeah, and then there's another thing. It's like not only do you have to go through the actual like the aging requirement, but then you also have to submit your wines to a tasting panel, and they have to approve that it tastes like quote unquote Rioja, like the typicity of Rioja. So if you don't pass that, even though you followed everything that the requirement is laid out, they won't give you the qualification. So, I mean, that's true in a lot of places, but yeah, definitely here in Rioja, definitely true as well. Any other questions? Do you guys like this one? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, it's really good.
I mean, it's big, right? Like it's not normally what I put on the wine club. But yeah, I'm curious what you thought about it. I mean, Shannon, you live in the big wine country, so this is probably right up your alley.
I do, but I will say, since joining your wine club, I've definitely, and also studying for wine, because you drink so much of it and you really, that's kind of like, I really started trying things outside of California wine, typical like big, bold California. I definitely prefer the lighter, fresher, fruitier styles of wine now.
Yeah.
But this is a really good, like, cozy, like big, bold red wine.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, there's nothing that is light and bright. I mean, yes, it can be like last week's wine was like light on his feet and all of that, but still not like a light wine. You know what I mean? Rioja is just not that kind of place. But you know, if you like this style of wine, and even within it, there are like some beautiful wines that are made here. And again, like to me, this is what oftentimes anywhere you go in the world, when you see a varietal blending red variety, it's usually not very good. There's a reason why they're blending variety. But in places like Rioja, you can grow Garnacha. I mean, to me, this is like world-class Garnacha. And the fact that, you know, these are all meant to be just a blending grape into Tempranillo. So yeah, that's why a lot of these young people are going there, kind of revolting against the tradition and saying, hey, why do you have to do that? Does this alcohol bother you guys? Does alcohol bother any of you guys?
I thought it was pretty balanced and really not. I didn't, when I first tasted it, I did not think it was 14.5.
Yeah, I definitely don't. This definitely does not drink like 14.5. When I first saw it, I was like, there's no way this is 14.5. When I tasted it in preparation, I think I called this like 13.5, 14. And then it was like 14.5. Jesus. Needed it, Julia. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, it's kind of an old fashioned label. It doesn't.
Yeah, very.
Young
very.
guy, a new wine and
Yeah.
Kind of old fashioned look.
Agreed. I think I mean, like, I think this wine is a serious wine. And then, but it's not even, so they also make single vineyard bottling after this, which is even the higher layer up. I think they were trying to do something different, but they're trying to take, like, to me, this doesn't come off as like, I'm gonna sit on the porch and then like pound a bottle anytime. Like, this wine definitely like asks for food as well as like the slow down, like the slow it down and then take time to kind of drink it kind of wine. And I think maybe that's why they were trying to not put such a or more of a traditional label. I don't know, but I do think it is fitting. I do agree that it is a very traditional old school label, but I do think it is fitting for the kind of wine that this is. Anything else?
I mean, this is straying a little bit away from this particular wine, but more a question about going back to the days of like goofy labels in the first Trump administration, which, you know, we were all there doing this wine club, many of us. But I mean, I know we all hope that 200% tariffs don't happen. Dave Corlette has already been planning in advance, right? And has ordered all of it.
He's set for the year.
He has a stockpile.
Yeah.
But
Buy domestic from now on.
I know. I mean, I when I went into Wardman's today, I was like, I'll be back before April 1st, and I might just like buy a lot of wine and use all of my Wardman points like on that purchase. And they were like, everybody's already been here. He's like, the champagne is gone.
Yeah.
But I guess my question is like, so there was that the tariffs in the first round, like was basically applied to under, or like it was kind of specific to like alcohol percentages.
Yeah.
Right. I guess my question is there a reason for that? From like an economic standpoint, it's just because it's like let the, I don't know, old men have their brandy or something, or
there's no reason for any of the Trump tariffs.
No, I know there's no reason for the tariffs. I know there's no reason. I'm just saying, like, basing things off of wine alcohol percentages, like why have that specificity, or like that specificity, or like, and do we expect that again, or?
I have a speculation. I don't know if this is actually the reason, but you know, if you're talking about like a lot of these tariffs are basically reciprocal, right? Like if you tariff one, they will do the thing, say, like it becomes a trade war. And because a lot of California wines tend to be higher in alcohol, and European ones tend to be lower, exactly. So that they will not tariff the. If you did the same thing, then more of Americans will want to go there without tariff as opposed to that. That's my speculation. I don't know for sure, but yeah.
All right, that was more of my question. Was again, I mean, obviously the tariffs are absurd and are not based in any real rationale or like, you know, any kind of evidence based.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But, again, I don't know. I'm just pulling that out of my ass, but yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, I mean, I was just kind of thinking where it's like, I don't know, it's like they still want the, like, I don't know, maybe he's just so tacky, he just wants dessert wines to be able to come in. I don't know.
Yeah.
The tariffs go directly to the executive branch, and it's their own discretionary fund.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, that's what it is.
So I have a question. If
As someone who works for
Prosecco is $45 a bottle, what would you get instead? What domestic bottle could you use instead of?
It's a good question,
Yeah,
Phil.
yes. Excellent question. Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, as someone who works for the Department of Commerce, I think that your explanation is like thinking too much. Like that is more thought than what was put into the test.
Okay. They're like just a random percentage. I'm like 14. That's not so problem, right?
Right.
All right. Well, let's play everybody's favorite game. Speaking of price, how much do you think this wine is on a retail shelf? How much would you be happy to pay for this on a retail shelf? Right. Vedao Garnacha, very small production, 2,900 bottles, 2,904 bottles ever made. It's got some 7 years of age on it, still with plenty of aging potential left. Drinking beautifully now. It is Spain, after all. How much do you think? 35, 30, 24, 30, 40. I mean, you guys go right in the ballpark here. 26, 30, 32, 28. All right. Then the winner is Mr. Corlette. It's $35 in retails. So, I mean, for a wine with this much aging potential and this much age on it and drinking as well as it is now, I think 35 is a completely reasonable.
I think when each individual bottle is numbered,
right, exactly,
it's going to be a little more expensive.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
I have bottle 377, by the way.
Ooh.
I have 391.
Wait, why is it so early? Mine is like way up to 1,600.
Mine's 1611.
Oh, yours is almost close mine. Mine's 1,637.
I hear they're way better when they're earlier.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Any questions? Any other questions?
I paired this with a grilled veggie like zucchini, squash, and bell pepper and burrata sandwich. It was so good.
Yeah, that was very good. Yeah. Yeah, to me, this is like barbecue wine. Grilled meats, grilled veggies, grilled stuff. Fantastic stuff, for sure. I don't know if I asked you this already, but how many of you drink Rioja like regularly, or like do you drink Rioja often? Does anyone?
I drink Campo Viejo like regularly.
Wait, you drink what regularly?
Campo Viejo.
Campo Viejo, yeah.
But I don't know if that qualifies me as an expert.
Right.
I would say that when I've tried Rioja in the past, it's been very inconsistent. And I haven't wanted to shell out for like an expensive bottle.
Yeah.
So this has actually been very helpful because it helps you kind of know what to look for a little bit.
Yeah. Cool.
I avoid it.
Yeah.
You avoid it?
If I like see Rioja, I think I probably won't like that.
Interesting.
Yeah. I thought about skipping the month because I was like, I don't like Rioja.
I mean,
but here
Allison,
I am.
I mean, is it new Allison that doesn't like Rioja? Is the old Allison did not like Rioja?
To be honest, I don't know anymore who's who. But I've never felt like I liked it. I've never felt like I liked Spanish wine in general.
Oh.
And March has been such a crazy time. This is actually the first of the month's bottles I've drunk, so I have nothing to compare it to. But I do like this. I do like it, and I appreciate it too. But I think probably David's point is good. Is that like I think I have drunk a lot of really cheap Rioja, and especially Tempranillo, and like it's not. But I think also when you were saying to me a few months ago that you think I like colder climate wine, and I think that's probably true.
Now
but I do like that.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think now you do. I think
now I do.
Allison circa 2020 would have been all over.
Probably.
Like, this was more of your style.
Yeah, for sure. But I still like this. Who was saying it was cozy? I agree that it's cozy.
Yeah, for sure.
But I also do you like the Galicia Villavera stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like
The Ribera del Duero
Yeah, like I thought that stuff was great.
or
Mm-hmm.
Ribera Sacra. Yeah, for sure.
Like 15 years ago, I taught English as a second language in Barcelona in a school right next to like this wine shop.
Mm.
And you could bring your own container and get like Rioja from a cask by the liter, and it was like a euro a liter.
Yeah. Hell
So
yeah.
that was like I was in a different part of my wine journey.
Yeah.
It was a different quality of wine, but I used to drink a lot of Rioja.
But I think that that's part of it. I think, I mean, again, much like literally all kinds of wine, right? I think
Mhm.
we've all been exposed to a lot of bad whatever, right? And because that's what's affordable, or and you would think it's like, I think especially like when it's like, I don't know, you're in your like 20s where you're like, oh, it's better than this other thing because it's Spanish and it's you know, like, and you sort of, and it's not that it's bad, and like it probably is a little bit better than, you know, whatever nonsense you're otherwise drinking, but like I think I like kind of, I think to Dave's point, like I feel like I've never really been able to navigate Rioja very well. And like knowing that there's very good Rioja and that is like worth exploring. And not again, like it's not gonna just have like garbage Rioja. It's just like it's kind of been like
Yeah.
you know, sort of neither here nor there, right?
It's kind of like Napa Cab, right? Like it's
exactly.
And
or like a Malbec, or like
exactly. There's a lot of commodity Rioja that's being produced. So
I didn't quite realize until you said it that like they just kind of accumulate their grapes wholesale from the area, and like all the focus is on the winemaking.
Mm-hmm.
It's like extraordinarily different from what's cool now. It hasn't for a long time around the rest of the world. That might account for some of that variability.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really it's really producer to producer for sure. Yeah, but there's some classic producers from here, the traditionalists, that still, because it's Spain, even though Rioja is probably arguably the most well-known wine region of Spain, the value on those wines are incredible. Like it's still not super expensive, which is awesome. Wait, so like if you guys go to like a Spanish restaurant, like a tapa restaurant, what do you guys drink? What's your beverage order?
Priorat.
Okay, all right. Priorat is solid.
It's been a really long time since I've been to a tapas.
Yeah.
I only knew that because I was just at a Spanish restaurant last week.
I mean, I'm a straightforward cava person. I'm not just
yeah.
Yes.
Like cava or chocolina.
Yeah. Chocolate is also good. Okay.
Right. Or it's like when we went to Halea or whatever one night, and it was like we just wanted to do the sherry list. You know, it's like that was like a fun journey, but like not, you know, that's different than have like your
That was in 2008, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was in a time machine.
Yeah, sherry's also good. Sherry's fantastic. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, any questions about the wine, Rioja, or anything else in general?
There's interesting spelling of Phinca, which means farm on the label.
Yeah. I don't know if that means the same thing in Spain Spanish, Phinca, as the, you know, Phinca in Latin American Spanish. But yeah, you're totally right. Wait, Dan, paraje. So I've been told that means vineyard in Spanish. Doesn't paraje also mean like a bird or couple?
Pájaro is bird.
Pájaro is bird.
And
Yeah.
pareja is couple.
Pareja. Okay. Okay. All right. So very close.
All those words start with P.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, hearing no other questions about wine, I'm going to stop the recording.